Keera Brooks, you are the CEO of Wholesale Sugar Flowers, found at wholesalesugarflowers.com. Welcome to Listing with Leaders.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First of all, we got to talk about the business. You've had this business, you bought this business, what, 4.5, 5 years ago?
Yes, exactly.
And very briefly, I went to the website and was kind of blown away. Tell everybody what Wholesale Sugar Flowers is all about. Very interesting business.
Sure. So if you've never heard of a sugar flower, it's actually made of gum paste and it's a cake decoration. And we sell cake decorations to everybody from an at-home baker all the way up to major hotels and resorts around the world. And we have not only sugar flowers, but hundreds of other products that are specifically designed for pastry and bakery elements. So everything that they make taste great, we make look great.
So if I see like a wedding cake and I see all the little flowers and decorations on it, that's the kind of, you guys provide all that stuff. The baker bakes the cake and frosts it, and then all the pretty stuff that comes from your company.
Yes, exactly. And we have almost 1,000 different varieties. Wow. So we pretty much have what you are looking for or what you need. And yeah, and we're very proud of that. We've been around we're celebrating 20 years this year. So
backstory. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this business.
Sure. It's kind of a winding road, but
of course.
I was in corporate for about 16 years and found myself in a place where I really wanted to give more. I knew I had more to give, but I wasn't in a position to be able to do that. So I thought maybe it is time to look elsewhere. And I left, I resigned, and it was really a difficult decision, but it had proved out to be the best one in the end. So I started a small services company right afterwards and realized that wasn't going to materialize in the way that I had hoped it would for the long term. So I said, okay, what's my next step? And I'll be honest, making that decision was pretty tough, but I spent a little bit of time thinking about what I wanted to do. Did I want to go back to corporate, or did I want to try this again, maybe in a different context? And so I said, well, what if I purchase a company that's already existing? I can for sure make an impact in that way. And so I started Googling businesses for sale in Georgia because that's where I live. And it wasn't, it wasn't very methodical, but I started looking through all different businesses for sale. And boy, you can find everything from a bread route to, a laundromat to a liquor store, XYZ. There are so many options out there. And I kept passing by this one labeled e-commerce bakery. And I was thinking, I'm not a baker. I don't want to own a bakery, but I kept passing it. And, the point where you get a little bit desperate and you start seeing all of these things come across and nothing's piquing your interest. I had thought maybe I better click on this and see what it's about. So I did, and I started asking questions, and then I realized, gosh, this really isn't a bakery. This is a supply chain company. This is an e-commerce business that has nothing to do with making cake, but everything to do with supporting the baking industry. And that excited me. So that's how I found it.
It's amazing to me how many people that I get to talk to on these podcasts whose journey flipped. Mine did too. I was a trial lawyer for 22 years, and I gave a week's notice as a senior partner to a law firm and walked out to become a peacemaker.
Wow.
And it's so lovely to hear stories of similar journeys. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And same thing with you. I mean, I'm looking at you and you seem pretty darn happy to be doing what you're doing.
Oh, I am. This is the most fortunate kind of circumstance I could put myself in, where I get to have full control over the company and where the direction goes. I get to impact female entrepreneurs who most of them are my customers. I get to help female entrepreneurs that are our suppliers and partners. And so, I mean, to say that this is, you know, a fortunate circumstance is just an understatement for me. I really feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. And that's pretty powerful when you get to that spot. Now, it took me a while to get there.
Right. Nothing happens overnight. That's for
No,
sure.
that's for sure.
What gets you so excited about this business?
The fact that we can help the industry do more with less resources, less cost. And when I say resources, I mean labor, which our industry is kind of suffering right now because there is a labor shortage in this kind of a skill. With costs being that our product is, they're all handmade. So the baker doesn't have to spend time making that product on their own, spending their own time. And this enables them to say yes to more cakes. And also it helps them increase their profit, which will create a more sustainable business for them. So the fact that this has all kinds of value, you know, coming from all different angles is really interesting to me. And it makes me think that there's so much more education that has to happen because it's not just, for me, it's not just about the product. There's a life that we can help people create for themselves, and they don't have to spin their wheels, if you will, for the long term. There's opportunity here. So
and how do you talk about that opportunity, especially to women who may want to become entrepreneurs themselves, like you? How do you talk about that? How do you help them make that decision?
The people that I interact with face to face at trade shows and other shows that are, you know, gathering the industry together are really where I feel the most excitement, because I can have a personal conversation with folks. I much prefer being in front of somebody versus sending an email or, you know, something else. I love to talk about how people can be empowered to create their own journey. So if I look at my home bakers, the people that are doing it from like a cottage kitchen standpoint, they're making cakes for their family and friends, and all of a sudden the word spreads and they're making cakes for more and more people around the area in their local towns and communities. And it's very exciting for them, but oftentimes they're so overworked because it's only them. They are the business. And that is very common in the baking industry. So in order for that person to be able to maximize the amount of income that they can have and earn as part of their business, they need to find ways to not only just charge for a higher priced cake, because there's only so much space in the price point that the market demands. But how else are you going to streamline your operation? And we can help streamline the operation. And that's the back end stuff that really, when we start to talk about those ways, that's when the wheels start turning, like, oh, this can help me immensely. And quite honestly, there's a lot of opportunity for people to get more creative because we're giving them more options. I like to call us the virtual pantry that you never know you needed. You know, we can be your kind of secret weapon, an extra set of hands in the kitchen.
Wow. I'm really curious. How do you make flowers?
It's a very intricate process. So, you know, there's thousands of different flowers in the world, right? There are some that are more common than others. But when you talk about the process to make a flower out of gum paste, it could take up to 30 minutes to an hour just to make one flower. And you need to have specific molds. You need to have specific wiring. You have to let petals dry. You're making it at the petal level. So one petal here, one petal there. Once it gets assembled, after all those layers of drying, then it has to be potentially colored. and decorated. So yes, you can buy something in white and plain, but then there are also certain flowers that are very decorative, like the bird of paradise, which is an incredible exotic flower that our artists all hand paint, hand airbrush, and you have all these incredible colors come together, and it just looks so lifelike.
What do you source these from artists, or do you have employees who make these things?
Both. We have an incredible network of artists all around the world, and we are so thankful that they have honed their craft, so we can help share this with the rest of the world.
So you have some manufacturing capacity yourself, but you also source from all over the world, and then as an e-commerce site, I guess stuff comes to a warehouse or a central shipping point.
Mhm.
Because your background is in logistics, I think.
Yes.
So how does that work?
So I do have a supply chain background. We do have a warehouse in Georgia. So just north of Atlanta is where kind of the rubber meets the road. Everything comes together at that facility, and then either they are packed and shipped right back out, or we curate pre-designed kits for pre-designed cake looks, so that we can offer somebody a one-stop solution to decorating a cake.
So somebody's got an idea of doing a German Bundt cake or something. You have a kit that they can actually buy to decorate the cake.
Precisely.
Wow.
Mhm.
So-
Or all the,
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, or, in this tough economic time, there's a lot of people that are resorting to doing their own wedding cakes.
Ah,
And so we can offer a wedding cake design that any bride can pick up a regular grocery cake off the street and do it themselves. So there's a lot of options that are
that's really
available.
How many employees do you have?
We have just, gosh, we're nearing 15 at the moment.
Fairly small operation.
Fairly small operation. It's funny. I kind of chuckle when people say, "Oh, how many employees do you have?" Because I feel like there's some kind of a gauge. If you have a lot of employees, that makes you a more interesting business. But I will say that I'm very proud that we can have the kind of company that we have with a very focused team, and leverage outside help when we need it, for when we need it. If you're an e-commerce business, honestly, and you're working with a heavy load of employee resources, that's a sign to me that something's not quite right.
The whole point of e-commerce is to be lean.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you're able, and it sounds like that you're able to maintain that leanness because you can outsource to other artists, as you said, around the world. So you can expand and contract as necessary.
Mhm.
That core team of 15 stays in place, and then
Mm-hmm.
you scale as you need to.
Right. And we really focus on execution and customer service. So I'm a fundamental logistics operator through and through. It's where I cut my teeth, and I'll never lose that. So I'm very adamant that we are executioners. we can execute an order like no other, and I'll go toe to toe with any of the big guys, because we put a focus on serving our customer. And the other piece around customer service is not only getting them their order when they want it, maybe even before they expect it, but also creating an environment where they feel that we're their partner. I really want them to not look at us as a storefront, versus I prefer them to consider us a partner in the kitchen with them.
Mhm.
So if you have an emergency, we have an emergency. We don't want you to feel left out or alone, because again, a lot of these bakers are doing this all by themselves. So they don't have people to lean on. We want them to lean on us.
So the stuff that you, the flowers that you make and the other things that you sell, are they perishable? You have to worry about shipping time and that, that sort of thing?
The beauty of this, and something I learned when I came into the industry, is that sugar is a natural preservative, much like salt. And I always had heard about salt, but I never really quite knew about sugar. So we do have a 2-year, sometimes even more, shelf life for the products.
Really?
So as long as you're keeping it in, a pantry that's room temperature, these will last for a very long time. So you can, most of the last minute orders are because somebody changed their mind last minute, or a baker got a last minute request to say, oh, somebody else fell through and now I'm being asked to do a cake. And that's when the urgent shipments come through. But most of the time people plan ahead a little bit.
Interesting. Huh. So what is it that you bring to the table? What's unique about your skills? You've mentioned logistics. Is that sort of the source of it?
I think it started there. It started at understanding how the back end of the business works. And I believe that when you're running a company, either, at least in my experience, what I've found is people are either operators or they're salespeople. And they're usually really good in one. And my bent is towards operations. But I think I also bring to the table a sense of humility and collaboration and integrity that bleeds into how I lead, bleeds into how I have my partnerships with our suppliers, and also how we treat our customers. And I think that, there's a different methodology, that it's not grow at all costs. It's around growing methodically and in the right way. And I really do believe that if you treat your employees well, they will in turn treat your customers well, who will then purchase again from you, will advocate for you, and your business will grow. I'm a fundamental believer in that.
Is there much competition in this area?
Yeah. There's definitely big competitors out there. There's the ones that have been around for 100 years. Huh. So it's definitely not a quiet space, but there's definitely a spot for us to kind of have our own little spot.
I was going to say market differentiation through customer service is
Mm-hmm.
a powerful differentiator.
Mm-hmm.
About it.
Mm-hmm.
So this show is called Listening with Leaders. What's the importance of listening in your business?
There's a huge importance to listening, and it specifically goes around what the customer wants and what we can offer them, and also what's trending. So if we are not on the pulse of what's actually happening out there and what people are moving towards, we could get left in the dust, so to speak. Traditionally, cakes and weddings are they move, they change over time. There's different themes. It's related to fashion. It's related to what the Pantone color of the year is, what celebrity is doing what kind of a wedding. So we have to keep our ear to the ground and make sure that we're paying attention to what's happening outside of our four walls, so we can make sure that we have the products that our customers didn't know they needed yet.
How do you do that? That sounds like you're doing a lot of outside research and study. What are the processes you use for listening to the market, so to speak?
Yeah. So for us, it's a multi-phase approach, if you will, around making sure that we're connected to the industry magazines, all the industry media and what's happening there. There's trade shows that are happening all the year. Now that the pandemic's over, the trade shows are back in full effect. And so you get a lot of information from just attending those and networking with your colleagues. Um, we do follow fashion. We do follow all the um, baking outlets. There are some fantastic Instagram and TikTok artists out there who are really trying to drive some industry leading efforts, which is really exciting. Yeah, and this is the fun part, is that this is all about art, and that's one of the things that I love about this job in this industry, is that yes, I have a very like operational background, but there's so much creativity here that the palette is just so wide and far reaching. So it's pretty exciting.
Where do you see the business going in the next 5 years?
We're going to continue to focus on being the stronghold in the market for sugar flowers, but we're also advancing into being more of a platform for other women entrepreneurs. And so we have a lot of great women that we know and we work with that make beautiful, incredibly high quality products that don't necessarily have the same platform that we do, or the reach of customers. So we're looking to expand our partnerships to be able to help them grow.
I know that you one of your great passions is helping female entrepreneurs get started. Mm-hmm. Where did all that come from?
I think the early days were from my parents, specifically my mother. She very much instilled in us that we can do whatever we want, and why not you? Essentially, keep working hard, keep your nose to the grindstone, as the old saying goes. But why not you? And I think when I realized that I had been part of that my whole life, and then I went to corporate and I was working with other women that were very, very skilled, and they didn't necessarily think that about themselves. It really surprised me, and it made me kind of sad to see that that they didn't have the same encouragement growing up that I did. So it just set this stage for me, I think, because once I believed in them and they actually made the next step and the next step and the next step in whatever journey they were on, that's just the best gift ever. So that's why I'm translating that from corporate into this company, and hopefully having a much bigger reach than in the four walls of the business I used to work with.
You have any great success stories you can share with us in that regard?
I do have a wonderful person that I worked with for many years, and she had been pretty hard on herself. She's a very good, very hard worker, but she was very, very hard on herself, and she rose up the ladder over the years, and she kept working hard, but in the end, she actually decided to go out and become an entrepreneur herself. So that was a really cool thing to see, that she was so sure of herself that she could do something all on her own, and she had a pretty tough go for a long time. So I'm incredibly proud of what she did.
And ultimately she found success.
Yeah, I would say.
And hopefully happiness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
I work if I'm not happy.
Oh, totally. I know that's the thing that I think sometimes gets lost. And when you have your head down and you're just marching forward, you forget to kind of pop up and look around and say, "Wait a minute, is this what I want? Is this how I intended it to be?"
I know, and that's exactly what drove me out of law practice. I was very successful as a trial lawyer, and I kind of woke up one day and said, "Well, why the heck am I doing this?" Because I was out of alignment with my own values. Mm-hmm. And I ended up going back to school and getting my master's degree in peacemaking and conflict studies, and made the decision one day to just quit. I gave my firm 1 week's notice and walked out.
Mhm.
Put 10 million bucks on the table.
Yeah, and I'll say the same. Like I really do think that there's an element of trusting in yourself
Yeah.
and making the decision that your happiness and where you are is enough. And that's just as important as making another dollar.
That lesson, what you just said there, I think is ultimate wisdom, and more people need to hear it. It's not about the money. I made plenty of money as a lawyer, but I don't make nearly as much money today, but I am infinitely happy. I've never been happier in my life.
I will say the same thing. I will echo exactly what you just said. I don't make nearly what I used to make, but I am so much happier. I'm a better parent. I'm a better spouse. I'm a better friend. I'm healthier. And
Absolutely.
so I think there's so much good that comes out of that. And it would be nice if the younger generations would kind of put their ear to the ground and maybe listen a little bit. Because
I get asked a lot from young people about what they should do with their careers. And I always say, go to school, get educated. Don't worry about colleges being a trade school, just learn. And the classes you take in college should be from the very best professors that are in your college or university. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your major is. Just do learn. And it doesn't hurt to have a graduate degree, something to fall back on. But then follow your passion, and don't worry about the money. And don't worry if your passion changes as you grow and mature. Things will change. But just make sure whatever you're doing, you're passionate about.
Mhm.
I wish that was given to me 40 years ago.
Well, and I think there's an element of nuance to that saying, right? Because you can't necessarily maybe afford the life that you want doing X, Y, or Z. But
correct.
If you're passionate about helping people, there are a million different avenues for you to be able to help people. It's like, what element of your life are you passionate about? There's different components that really bring you joy. And when I talk to people and employees, et cetera, it's finding what are the things, the key things that make you happy, that bring you joy, and then what kinds of careers or what kinds of jobs have those elements that you can focus on, because not everything is wonderful all the time. And so I think sometimes when people hear, especially younger generations, hear that message around just do what you love, the money will follow. There's an old book that's that title. It's true to a measured extent.
I think you're right. Because as I think about your journey and my journey and how we both, obviously very separate tracks, but you were in corporate for 16 or 17 years. I was in law for 22 years. Maybe it took a couple of decades of seasoning to get ready to really move into a life that really became, a mission.
Absolutely. My 20-year-old my 20-year-old self would not have bought into anything that I was shelling out.
I have to agree, and I had a lot of maturing to do too, to be able to do what I do today. So that there was a seasoning process, I think, that has to occur.
Yes.
But even saying that, there are so many opportunities today for young people, especially young women, that did not exist when I came out of school in the 70s. The opportunities are just astounding for people if they just, take the time to look around and think about it. And you have to make a living. If you're going to grow and mature, you're going to want to have a house and perhaps get married and raise a family and all that sort of stuff. And that all takes money. So there are some sacrifices that have to be made. Still, I think there's the path. Maybe it's not a 2-decade path. Maybe
exactly.
Maybe it's a little shorter.
Exactly. Hopefully that's the better part, is that somebody can learn and kind of shorten that period.
Right, exactly. So are you finding, as being an entrepreneur and a CEO of your own company, that your work-life balance is better now?
Yes, it is.
Because you don't have to, I mean, you set your own hours. I mean, you can work when you work, and I mean, obviously you have to work, you have to pay attention to your business. But
It's a lot better. I would say it's a lot more flexible.
Yeah.
And it's also allowed me to be more flexible with my team as well. So I understand now that, you know, a doctor's appointment is important to a mom that needs to take her kid.
Right.
Or somebody has a funeral or something like that. I think that's the exciting part for me, is to be able to give somebody else that accommodation so that they can have a nice life too.
Right.
Yes, we're in business, but we're not solving, we're not saving lives.
Right. But you're making people happy.
Yes, yes.
With the beautiful flowers. That's great, because, your sentiment about taking care of your employees, if you build trust and loyalty and safety on your team, they will give back like you can't believe.
Absolutely.
That's all they want is, it's not just a paycheck, it's relationship.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a really amazing conversation, Keera. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, I got one more question. Always.
Yes.
What's one thing about yourself that we would never know unless you revealed it to us?
All right. One thing I would probably say is I am not too bad at name that tune, whether it's the artist or the song.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a secret talent. So
music, are you musical yourself?
I'm not musical, but I love to listen to music.
Wow.
So again, back to your whole concept around listening. I love to listen.
Yeah, I'm a jazz violinist myself.
Ah, nice. Very nice.
Well, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to speak with us.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it.